It is May of 2022. A 19-year-old boy walks onto the site of an unfinished construction site. It's a Hindu house of worship. He looks at its unfinished concrete and wonders to himself, what will I give this place? When I was young, I regularly attended the BAPS Mandir, Hindu house of worship, in New York. Here, I laughed, I learned, I loved, I appreciated, and I came home with a lot of messages. I learned from my guru, Pramukh Swami Maharaj, this very special thing. He said, in the joy of others lies our own. It took on a very special meaning from the moment that I heard it. I used it in speeches, I used it in essays, I would talk about it in conversations. But there is a difference between saying it, believing it, and truly experiencing it. I didn't truly experience it until May of 2022. I decided to take a gap year to perform voluntary construction work on the site of Akshardham. Let me explain what I mean. This is Akshardham, the second largest Hindu house of worship in the world. It is dedicated to Bhagwan Swaminarayan, the founder of the 19th century founder of a Swaminarayan Hindu faith. And it is inspired by Pramukh Swami Maharaj, my guru, a person, a visionary, a builder of 1,100 mandirs. And it is currently under the guidance of Mahan Swami Maharaj, who is the current spiritual head. As far as we're concerned, this was the site of my 16-month gap year. At Akshardham was a show. 12,500 volunteers were running the operation, everything from logistics to marking the stones, to cutting the stones, to placing the stones, to feeding the people. Students, parents, professionals, over the course of 12 years, people from all walks of life came together to make this possible. This was the kind of place where you'd be sitting at a dinner table and someone gets up because they realize someone else is coming. And they go to make more food because they realize that more fulfilling than eating the food is serving the food. The creation of Akshardham is the story of selfless service and the power of giving, told through a few stories. Let me start with my own. So I started out just thinking about how my first day would be. Most first days are orderly. You have structure. You've seen the ecosystem. You know what the office space looks like. You've interned, you've shadowed. As a teenager on a construction site, I had just about none of that. I was worried. Ignorance gives rise to fear. Where would I be living while I'm there? What would I eat while I'm there? And though I was no stranger to being at a place of worship, it's safe to say that my recurring thought on the first day was, what did I just get myself into? The first days were trying. I accidentally broke a stone on my first day, on one of my first days. It was a nice polished granite slab. I was worried. My first thought was to the perhaps thousands of donated dollars that I had just spoiled. Would I get kicked out on my first day on site? But I kept at it. I kept going. Later that day, 7 or 8 individuals came up to me and they were very kind. They weren't upset. They showed me how to put the stone back together. And they gave me 2 things in that moment. They gave me the know-how to make sure I combat those situations with grace in the future, but they gave me the courage to keep going. And maybe I kept going because of that one interaction. Giving is about shedding your ego. Giving is about forgetting I and you because it's about the bigger picture. I learned that when you give, you optimize for resources. You work together. There is no competition. And that's when I started thinking about giving. This is Mahashikar Bedi. Over the course of the next year, I trained as a stonemason. I learned to measure, cut, and place stones like a giant 3D jigsaw puzzle. This here is about 1,075 stones that my team put up. This is Parikrama. It is the sandstone colonnade that encircles the entirety of Akshardham. My team was responsible for the granite portion. This is what it looked like some days. It is safe to say that I had quite an experience during the first few months. But I would be remiss not to mention the individuals that I met while I was there. This is my own story, but there were individuals that defined for me what giving really is. I would like you to meet 3 of these individuals today. This is Amrish, 48, from Atlanta. He's an information technology professional. He was my teammate for 16 months. We'd share conversations about common aches and pains. One day, I woke up with my hands unable to clench. And I tried not to let him know. I knew he was really nice and he'd tell me to sit down. But I kept working. I took a few breaks. Halfway through the day, I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turn around and it's Amrish Bhai giving me his vibration reduction gloves. Now, I assume these were expensive. But in that moment, he was thinking more about safety and security and my comfort as opposed to his own. He was thinking about how he could give despite being in his own physical pain. My first lesson in giving was of sacrifice. This is Dr. Dinesh Parmar. Dr. Dinesh is a surgical oncologist with 6 medical degrees who served food for 18 months on the construction site. And he did telemedicine appointments in the evenings. Dr. Dinesh says the happiness he's experienced at Akshardham is different from anything else. Why? Why does a surgeon spend 18 months giving around distributing hot soup to construction volunteers? Why does he do that in the summer but with juice? Why does a surgeon serve 1 million meals over the course of 2 years? The question I kept asking myself was why? Humble people don't define themselves in their work. They don't bring attention to their work by putting it down or praising it. Instead, they do what they need to do and they move on and forget about it. Dr. Parmar taught me that giving is about forgetting about who you and what you are. That giving is about leaving your degree at the door so you can sculpt yourself in the service of others. This is Sumitra, 64, known affectionately as Sumiba. Ba means grandmother in Gujarati. Sumiba was one of the most robust volunteers on site. You would see her bringing warm compresses to her teammates. You would see her bringing bakery delights that she'd make on her own time, despite full-time volunteering as a construction worker. Despite early financial struggles in Kenya and a life-altering surgery just a number of years ago, Sumiba found the strength to keep volunteering at Monday. Again, I asked myself, why? Why does a 64-year-old lady feel the need to give back? She says that I am giving to future generations that will come to Akshardham and that will benefit from this place. And it's a generational, spiritual wealth that she's contributing to. My last lesson in giving is that giving transcends age, physical stature. Sumiba was one of the fastest pallet openers on her team, ranging from 18 to 64. What these 3 individuals taught me was a very important truth I learned a number of years ago, that giving is more important than getting. In the joy of others lies our own. Giving in thought by wishing well for others. In word by speaking of the compliments of others, praising others. And in deed by performing acts of service for others. These individuals understood that to give you must shed any harbor of I. I came away with 3 broad messages. In working with these individuals, I started to see the good in people, the inherent divinity that exists within everyone. I now get to take this forward with everything that I do. In working so closely, I looked past differences. I became easier to forgive. I learned to see the good. I learned that the journey is personal. When you see individuals, teams of 10, staying after to help another team, despite their stuff being done for the day, their work being done for the day, you recognize that everyone is silently working on bettering themselves through forgiveness, being kinder. Learn that the journey is personal. When I think back, I had no idea that I was just going to construct a mandir or that I was going to build myself. I learned that through stories we can build ourselves. The stories themselves constructed my experience. The reality is, I could have selected any 3 individuals to speak about today, and it would have been the same cross-section of values, because the place created the people. And I'm no extraordinary construction worker. It could have been anyone, if I'm being honest, in my position. I simply was in the right place at the right time. And I took an opportunity to give that I'm happier that I did. In thinking back about my experience, one thought comes to mind. In giving, I was able to contribute to something that will outlive me by 1,000 years. It's crazy to think of the magnitude, but I've built something that will outlive me by 1,000 years, and at the same time, I was able to learn how to live today. 50 years from now, a retired engineer will walk onto the courtyard of Amsterdam with his grandchild by his side, maybe following a cultural exhibition or a dance class or dance performance. Pointing out the base of the central spire, the grandchild might say, "Hey, look, Grandpa, did you build that?" Filled with a pride for her culture in this country, the grandchild will wonder to herself, what will I give to my children? Thank you.